Okay, so you might not have noticed, but there's been a watch show recently. The LVMH Watch Week has just been held. It was a bit of an anticlimax across the board. I think LVMH, to use a journalist's expression, was very keen not to bury the lead. They're not going to put out anything really big and earth-shattering in January. I think what we saw instead was kind of some bits and playing around the edges, and also them taking the piss a little bit, having a bit of fun, having a bit of a joke. I'm going to talk about that in the video after the intro. Please, one thing to note is this is a quick off the cuff kind of response. There is no review in here. I don't give dimensions or costs or anything. It's just my impressions of what I saw. If you need to do more detail, need to do more research, I'm sorry, I'm going to leave that to you. That's not really what I was trying to do with this video. Anyway, with all of that said, if you're interested in my thoughts, see you on the other side. Okay, so what's my hot take on the LVMH watches and the watch show that we got at LVMH Watch Week? Fundamentally, I suppose my number one hot take is this show was less of a watch show than a contemporary art event. The Tag Heuer releases were very straightforward, very traditional, and very easy to discuss as watches, and I'll do that later. But what we got from Hublot, and especially Zenith, was less a show of new watches and more, as I said, a contemporary art event where the artist is almost giving the middle finger to the establishment. As I said, this is most evident with the Zenith, but it also comes through, as it always does, with Hublot. Let's start at the top of the tree and talk about the Hublot releases. Hublots are always a bit of more contemporary art piece than they are classical watchmaking, and that comes through completely with the Big Bang Integral Time Only. There's more than a little irony in that name. Firstly, Big Bang, well, it's only 40 millimeters, so it's not really that big. Time only, well, it's got a date, so it's actually not a time only. I think I see that as a classic, as I say, contemporary art joke style name. Getting through that, looking at the watch, it's classic Hublot, the screws, the dates, the case shaping, it's the removal of the dial but not skeletonizing the movement. Classic Hublot. It is what you would come to expect. If you get it and this is your look, then it will be a watch for you. If you don't get it and it's not what you're after, then it's not going to be for you. Everything that I've seen seems to be that it's done, the watches are executed quite well. I'm sure they're going to look pretty good up close. As I said, I like what they do. I like the direction Hublot is taking. And I think that the Big Bang Integral Time Only is a classic kind of example of what they do in a slightly smaller and more accessible size than they would normally do at 40 millimeters. And for the people that buy Hublots, this is a really, really good release. Different watches, same contemporary art theme. Hublot also brought us some new sang bleus. These are tattoo-inspired watches which absolutely reflect today. In fact, more than ever, I find myself looking at these sang bleus, struggling to understand them, having to think hard about how they work, and thinking, frankly, that no other watch reflects 2020 and 2021 better than these watches. I think the complexity and the difficulty and the conflict that they have sums up my feelings over the last 2 years brilliantly, and if I can afford one, I would so have one of these watches. They come in a variety of colors already, but today's Hublot's released 2 in ceramic, 1 in their scratch resistant magic gold. The ceramic is a black and a green. And then obviously the ceramic gold one, the magic gold one. My personal preference, I'm not sure. I like them all. I really like the black ceramic, but I also really like the idea of the magic gold. It would be a toss-up for me, which I prefer. I think they both look great. I suspect I'm going to be one of a very small number of people that think so. But yeah, that's my take on it. Sum this up, for Hublot folk, for people who get it, for people who want these sorts of things, I think all of the Hublot releases have been excellent this year. Changing watches, changing brands, going from Hublot to Zenith, but the same theme of contemporary art, irony, joke, scene stealing coming from Zenith with their Defy line. The joke was set up with the Zenith Defy Revival A3642, and then the punchline came with the new Zenith Defy Skyline. So what's the joke? The joke is that right now it is the 50th anniversary of the AP Royal Oak. The thing is that 4 years before that watch was released, Zenith created, Zenith owned the octagonal all-steel sports watch with the Zenith, their original Zenith Defy from 1968. Well, it's not the original Defy, that's been around for a while, but from that 1968 version. They own that. That is their shape. And just a few days before, everyone must have known that AP was coming out with their 50th anniversary, Zenith trumped them and said, this is our space. This is our tree. You are coming into our house with your Royal Oak. And then virtually on the day that AP is coming out with their new Royal Oak, they drop the Zenith Defy Skyline, a watch which is clearly modeled on, clearly taking a lot from the Royal Oak, and doing so unashamedly, because it's doing so knowing this is their house, this is their space. They created this shape and they are free to take from it whatever they want. Continuing the joke, what they've done is stuck the El Primero movement, an iconic chronograph, in a simple three-hander, removing most of the chronograph features, keeping the key feature of the El Primero, the 3600 beats per minute, beats per hour time frame, allowing them to have a small second that is incredibly precise with a 10-second rather than a 60-second rotation. Which gives you no ability to set the time accurately, because you never know exactly what second you've got. You've got a highly precise, within 10 seconds timing, but you don't know what second. I just love the idea behind this watch. I'm not going to buy it. I don't like it that much. But I absolutely get the joke, and I love what Zenith has done here. If Moser had done this, people would be falling over themselves. But it wasn't Moser, and the CEO of Zenith, Zenith is part of a big group, and the CEO of Zenith isn't as charismatic as Ed, but this is Moser-level trolling of AP. It's probably better than anything Moser has done, because there's actually some substance behind this claiming of space by Zenith. And I think it's hilarious. I think it's cool. I think it's great. And yeah, I think there should be more of this in the watch community. I love that Zenith did this. Okay, let's put all this art talk, all this irony, all these jokes, all this trolling aside, ground ourselves and get back to talking plain old everyday straightforward watches, because that's what TAG has given us here. Two sets of watches, the Ortavia and the new Aqua Racer, or a variant on the Aqua Racer. Let's go with the Ortavias first. First off, thank God they have brought us back the Ortavia chronographs. I thought the previous 2017 Ortavia's chronographs were some of the best looking watches of that year, and I could never understand why TAG discontinued them. I was very sad to see them discontinued, and I'm incredibly happy to see them back. I love that these are not straight re-editions or revivals of the old ones. TAG have clearly taken the old Ortavia basis. You can see the old look behind the new modern facades, the new modern looks. I think that they are incredibly handsome watches that do a brilliant job of blending old and new. I hope that they are enormously successful for TAG, and I really hope that these two watches in particular can start, or maybe continue, re-establishing TAG in people's minds as a watch company that should be taken much more seriously than it is. The next Ortavia is actually an example of the kind of watch which has led a lot of enthusiasts to get annoyed and turn their backs on TAG. I know full well that the three-handed variants of the Ortavia really upset a lot of enthusiasts. They felt that Ortavias had to be chronographs. I'm not really of that mind. I'm perfectly happy with the idea of brands and models and watches changing lanes and evolving. And so I always actually thought the three-handed Ortavias were quite attractive. And I think the colours and what they've done with the GMT version that they've just released are really good. I think it's a really handsome watch. It looks like the design is really consistent, coherent, it all hangs together well. It's a good blending of automotive and pilots, which is exactly what the Ortavia line is supposed to be. All the colours and the shapes and the proportions all look good. This looks like a really solid watch. I, as a GMT collector, am really keen to see this in the flesh or in the metal, and I'm only afraid that I'm going to like it and I have to add yet another watch onto the watches I want to buy one day. I suspect a lot of people are going to hate this simply because it's a TAG or because it's a 3/4-handed Ortavia, but I reckon if you put those preconceptions out of your mind and simply look at this watch for what it is, embrace it for what it is, you'll see that the new Ortavia GMT is a hell of a handsome piece. Okay, so I'm going to finish this up with a quick thought about the new TAG Aqua Racer variant. When I first saw this, I didn't really have a strong feeling either way. I wouldn't have normally done a hot take on this. I was watching a live stream with a couple of other enthusiasts who usually collect much more valuable, much more higher end pieces. And they had the same reaction. It was kind of, yeah, it was a nice watch, but very quickly moved on and didn't really think about it. I was really struck listening to the guys, I'm pretty sure from the 40 and 20 podcast, talking about the same watch and being really excited, thinking that this watch was killer, that this was one of the best watches they'd seen released from mainstream Swiss brands for years. And that this was a watch which, for people that tend to be, if you like, more around the entry-level watch, or for people who would come into the watches through TAG, as so many people did during the 80s and 90s, this is a watch that picked them up and took them back to that place. This is a watch, this new version of the Aqua Racer really caters for TAG enthusiasts who came into this world of watches through them, through watches like the Aqua Racer, through Aqua Racers that look like this new release. And I found myself thinking, I now love this watch. I don't love it for me. For me, it remains someone else's ideal, someone else's watch. But listening to the people that like aqua races, listening to the people that like tag, be so enthusiastic about this watch and really feel that this is now a watch company, a big mainstream brand, taking them seriously and giving them quality. I love it. And I think that's fantastic. And I don't care that it's not for me, because you know what? It's not all about me. And in many ways, this whole idea that horology and watches and the offerings we get from industry aren't for all of us, that each one of them only has to be for some of us, probably sums up everything about LVMH Watch Week for me. This was a watch show for the people that wanted these watches, and that's great. Okay, so that's it. They're my takeaway thoughts of what we saw from LVMH at the LVMH Watch Group. You'll notice I didn't even really mention Bulgari at all. I didn't mention Bulgari at all. I didn't really think there was enough there that was worth talking about. They introduced some super high-end stuff. Yeah, right, fine. Okay, so I'd love to know what your thoughts were. Do you agree with my take, or do you think I'm giving LVMH far too much credit? I'm convinced they know what they're doing and they're deliberately trolling us, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. Okay, I've been Pete McConville. This has been Not So Obvious Watches. I will see you later. Bye.